Well, thank you, Ralph, in the sunny Masai Mara. I hope he gets lucky with his plans with the hyena den. As you can see, we've got some cubby cuteness. And to be honest, I'm kicking myself. I skipped a beat. I should have noticed that none of the cub tracks were actually moving with the adults. And I should have said that the cubs must be stashed somewhere. So it shows you that I was half asleep whilst following these tracks. And it's 4 tiny little cubs. There's 3 of which are in a little bundle there. Another one's just to the left of them. And then it seems like the slightly older, bigger cubs from this pride are also stashed away a little bit further to the left. I'm not sure if we're going to get a view. Well done, Sens. There you can see a little bit of a view of some of the others. Now, I'm told there's 10 cubs in total. I've never seen this pride altogether. Yesterday morning, I did see them from a distance, and there was only 6 cubs. So it looks, and I'm guessing now that 6 of the cubs are smaller, like the ones we're looking at now, because yesterday I only saw 3 of this size, as far as I'm aware. Which means to say, obviously, one lioness was away with some of the other cublets. I wonder where the adults are, how far away they are, and how often they leave them for. They could well come back at some point today to find them. What's also interesting is that these cubs have not exactly chosen the best spot to lie up, because they're clearly out in the open. They're very easy for us to spot, and they're small and vulnerable. I'm guessing they're only around 3 months of age, there and thereabouts. I don't know the exact date, but for them to just be lying out in the open like this certainly isn't ideal. Although, I mean, it's just hyena, I guess, that are going to be their main threats. And there haven't been a huge amount of hyena moving in and around this area. And also, importantly, other lion are going to be their biggest threats. And there certainly hasn't been too much lion movements other than their pride. So, not under huge risk, but quite interesting that they have decided just to chill out right here. Cute. Couldn't believe my eyes as we were driving along and spotted them. Where are your parents, and when are they going to come back and collect you? Rosie Posey, you wondering why the cubs are separated, and these are the small ones and the bigger ones are kind of further off to the left? I think it's through default. A lot of the time lions will kind of lie up next to one another, even when they're adults, like not right in a pile, somewhat kind of dispersed in the general area. So it's not hugely uncommon. There's definitely no threats from those older cubs to the younger ones. Maybe the odd little bit of bullying, but nothing too serious. What I want to do now is just creep ahead and get some better views. I'm actually thinking of driving past and getting some low angles, turning the vehicle around completely and getting us a little bit more eye level with them. We'll get some better views of them. We were shooting down on them, and such small subjects from a high point is not ideal. So let's try and fix this quickly. Interesting. Well, Noel says that it's not uncommon for this pride to leave these cubs out in the open, almost in a similar spot to this, as where Noel remembers this happening. But Noel says usually, if that is the case, the parents come back fairly soon to scoop them up. Oh yeah, we're going to get some great views now. Matt, you're wondering if these guys are waiting for the sunrise to warm up. Look at how cute this is. Shame you guys are still a little bit itchy. They do have mange, which is why they're not in the best condition and why they are, or at least one of them is scratching itself. How cute are these little guys? So yeah, Matt, I guess they would enjoy the sun to come up so that they could warm up a little bit, but they're not going to do too much, anything too different to what we're looking at now, even when the sun does pop up. Now, I've just heard an impala alarm call off to the left of us. Just one. So maybe if we're lucky, it means that the adults are in fact coming back. Now, I may need to reposition shortly, maybe not. We'll see. There's another vehicle coming up behind us, but hopefully he'll have enough space to skirt past and also get some views. Look at how cute these little things are. Hello. I wonder how long they've been lying here, how long the parents have left them. It's impossible to know at this stage. Now, what is going to get tricky, we are on a main road here, and because it is a boundary, multiple vehicles can traverse this area. So what I'm thinking of doing is, we've had a great view, and we are quite close to them. So what I want to do is go and maybe look at the other ones and open up a little bit of space where these cubs are, where it is going to be a lot more busy on this main road. So I hope you've got some good screenshots already. We're not going for good, we're just kind of looping around, and like I say, we're going to spend some time with the slightly bigger cubs, which are a little bit further into Djuma as opposed to on this main boundary road. Very good. While we get into position, we shall send you back to Noel. Yes, we certainly do. We've now repositioned the vehicle and are with the slightly older cubs. I'm guessing they're around 6 months of age roughly, just judging by their size. And they are not going to be as fortunate as the elephants. They don't get to stay around with their mothers for nearly as long as the elephants do. These guys will be kicked out of their pride at around 2 or 3 years of age. But I guess it is all relative. Elephants live for about 5 times longer than elephants on average. Sorry, elephants live 5 times longer than lions do on average. So it's not kind of too far off if you get that ratio in place. Now, they did poke their heads up a little bit earlier looking to the south. I wonder if they were listening to their parents. Lady Starfire, you would like to know what age is it kind of accepted to stay with lion cubs when their parents are away? And it's a good question. I'm not actually too sure what the exact protocols are here at the moment. I'm just using my own kind of discretion. It's a very still morning. It's not very windy. So, you know, I don't think our presence here is creating any harm or any increased likelihood of risk to these cubs. If, like I said, it was very windy and therefore our position might distract them and they may not hear the footsteps of other predators approaching them, then I don't think I'd hang around. But on a morning like this, I think it's fine to view them. Also, you know, if you look at the cubs' reaction to us, they're very, very relaxed. So we're definitely not causing them any stress. They're not feeling nervous because their parents aren't here. So yeah, often I think discretion is the best thing to apply in situations like this. Set rules sometimes can not be applicable to all individuals. And what kind of further complicates the matter here is that we've got some slightly older cubs. I mean, these cubs we're viewing now, you know, they are big enough to be viewed without their parents. But the smaller, younger cubs, you know, there could be an argument that you shouldn't spend time with them. Some people might feel that way. I don't in this situation. But yeah, I mean, I guess that does complicate the matter a little bit due to the fact that there are two different ages of cubs in the same spot here. So what adults never return? Well, they would slowly starve, and once they got weak, predators kill them. There we go. There's a gap for at least one. And I'm sure their cousins too tucked away somewhere. Well, interestingly, I've actually put my bum lower down, and it seems to be increasing our signal. Oh, no, this is very interesting. There's a whole bunch of hyena on the scene. Quickly sense. At 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, they're sniffing about. And this is not an ideal scenario for these lion cubs. There's two hyena here. They can obviously smell lion. And I'm hoping that they get distracted by the scent of the adults and follow that scent away. But with their senses being so good, there's a strong chance that they can smell these cubs. They're not going to be able to distinguish between adult and cub, but they can definitely smell lion. And often hyena will lurk around looking for lions, mainly adults. They're not kind of seeking out the cubs. They're mainly looking for the adults in the hope that they can find an easy meal that the lions have made. So we're just going to have to sit patiently and quietly here and just hope that these hyenas do not find where these cubs are. The bigger cubs I'm less concerned about, which is the ones that we are currently with. The smaller cubs, I'm not too sure where they've moved off to. They weren't in the same spot where we found them when we got back from tweaking a few things. Now I know we don't have good views, so we want to create this little noise and impact in this what could become a very sensitive sighting very, very quickly. So, and I've just heard over the radio now that those young cubs crossed to the south. So it's just these three older cubs here, which means that for now these hyena actually are looking in the wrong spot for the smallest, more vulnerable cubs. These bigger cubs, it would actually be an interesting standoff between hyena. I don't think hyena would be very bold in attacking them, but the smaller ones most definitely. Now you'll be glad to know I just got a glimpse of at least one hyena moving further away from the scene. Whew. I wasn't ready to see some tiny lion cubs being torn apart this morning. Not that I don't think anyone would ever be ready for that kind of a scene. But it is a reality. It does happen out here. And if we were in that area when it did happen, we would continue to watch and spectate. It's something that I've actually never seen. I've been in areas kind of where it's happened, but behind bushes. So I've never actually been through the trauma of seeing that happen, but it is a reality out here. And the only way to know exactly what would happen in a situation like this is to sit and watch and see what happens, because like I said, you know, these three kind of older cubs, they may well stand up to the hyena. But again, like most of these scenarios, they can differ from day to day and time to time. Now, Julia, no, these cubs are not strong enough to defend themselves against these hyena. There'd be no match for the hyena. The hyena are bigger and stronger than them. But, you know, wild animals don't take as many risks as we do. And because the cubs are of a decent size, they'd be able to hiss and snarl and at least make the hyena think twice. and I'm guessing that that would be enough to deter them on most cases. But like I said, you get hyenas with different strength and hierarchy and ability and kind of a mindset, and it's the same thing with lion cubs. So you may find 3 lion cubs that were not very bold, that decided to run from any given hyena. That would give the hyena the upper hand immediately, and you could get 3 other lion cubs that are a bit more bold and stood up to the hyena, and that would obviously change the outcome, and that's just from the lion's perspective. Then of course you get hyena that have got different histories, different experience, different abilities and strength. So, there's so many variables that it makes it very difficult for us to predict what would happen in a given scenario, because, like I said, essentially all animals, both lion and hyena in this scenario, are individuals and will have, therefore, different ways of going about dealing with things, which will immediately impact on the outcome of that scenario. Phew. Well, I'm very, very happy that it appears these hyenas have slunk off, possibly following the scent of the adult lions, continuing off in a westerly direction. So let's hope that that stays the case. We'll be sure to call you back if those hyenas do come back sniffing around the scene. But for now, back to Ralph in the Mara. Well, we are getting spoilt with the cubs this morning, and I'm in a bit of a conundrum here, because I'm concerned that as and when the parents return, which they will at some point, my feeling is that they are going to return from the south, because that is where their tracks have headed. And in the event that they do, they will catch up with the smallest cubs, which have already crossed further to our southern boundary, or south of our southern boundary, which means these 3 individuals are going to go running off straight across the boundary to do the cute reuniting of cubs with the parents, and it'll be soul destroying to just see them running off into the bushes. Now, I could be wrong, and maybe the parents will continue out and come and drink at one of our water holes. So that's, in the odd event, in the unlikely event, in my opinion, that happens, I think it might be worth sticking around here. But my gut feeling is that we are just going to see these things disappear off into the thickets and not get to see the wonderful moment as they reunite. So that is what I'm kind of toiling with, whether to stay here or whether to go. Philip, you'd like to know how many generations has the Styx Pride held this territory for? And I'm not sure. And what I would guess is that there's been probably the pride would have kind of fragmented, and there would have been offshoots and breakaways from the initial Styx Pride. I don't actually know. I don't know where they originate from, nor where they spend a lot of their time currently, nor how many generations they've had. Julia, you'd like to know if females within a pride will only care for their own cubs, or if they will care for others as well. And as a general rule, they will only kind of suckle their own cubs. They will not tolerate other cubs coming and trying to suckle from them, and it is something that cubs will try and do. They'll go and try and get a sneaky suckle from their aunt, but that is certainly not tolerated. But in the event that a lioness dies and the cubs are orphaned, then it becomes different. Then lions have been known to kind of adopt and nurse cubs that are not their own. And also what's interesting is that from time to time, well, not interesting, but I mean all lioness will try and defend cubs, but look after as in mother and look after as in defend, I guess, are 2 different things. But definitely all lioness will have a kind of maternal feeling when it comes to the well-being of all of the cubs within the pride, as and when they are under threat from other lions and or hyenas and or wild dogs. Proud Cat Mummy would like to know if these lion cubs would be able to outrun adult hyena, and no, I don't think so. Maybe initially over a short burst, but I mean, hyenas are quick, and they've got stamina, and they've got an incredible sense of smell. So, quickly to the left, Sens. Those birds, the ones that are further, probably half the size in terms of body weight. They might be, not half as tall. They'll be maybe 2/3 as tall, but not nearly as bulky as the hyenas. So height-wise, 2/3, weight-wise, I would say half. Possibly less, just less than half the weight of an adult hyena. I really would love to know a few things, one of which, how long have these lions been here for? It could have been the whole night that their parents have been out hunting. And B, I would like to know, where are the parents? What are they getting up to? Are they far away? The answers to both of these questions we are not going to be able to get to the bottom of, sadly. Maybe the second one we will. Maybe we'll be able to try and find out some reports from the guides to the south of us as to where they are, but not too sure. Now, I'm told quite a few of you are asking me to stay here with regards to my conundrum about them disappearing to the south as the parents return, but I think I'm happy to stay. There's just a part of me that really desperately wants to go and seek out Tundi and her den site. I feel like we are obliged to try and invest as much time as possible into finding her and that little cub while the going is good. Thank you very much to Michael, who sent through some information regarding the Styx Pride, and you say they have been around for 25 years. But where exactly they've been spending all the last 25 years, I'm not too sure. Quite often prides do move. Hello, what have you sensed? Or are you just waking up for a look around? I think they're ordinarily from further south in an area around Londolozi. Hello, young Jacob, you wondering if I think these lions are hungry? And yes, they definitely are. I haven't seen them standing up, but I can even tell from that one on the right, its belly is very, very flat. And cubs of this age will be able to drink milk as well as eat meat. They'll eat more meat than milk at this stage, and yes, it looks like they definitely are quite hungry. So they'll be very happy if their parents make a kill, come back and call them and take them back to it to feast on. That's usually how it works with lions, Jacob. The parents will leave the cubs hidden away so that they don't have any distractions while they're hunting. But then once they've managed to make a kill, then maybe one of the parents will stay back to guard the kill and the others will come back to collect the cubs. I'm hoping that happens. Maybe we will get lucky and get to see them feasting later. Hello to Scarlet Sky. You're wondering how much time will they spend away from their parents? Will their parents spend away from them? 12 hours easily, sometimes more, depending on the luck that the parents are having. What us as humans don't really factor into the equation too much is that being an adult lion or leopard or any wild animal, it's fundamental that you take care of yourself first. And I guess the same applies for humans, really. But I guess our compassionate nature causes us to sometimes act irrationally. And that means that, if lions or leopards are having a hard time feeding themselves as adults, that is what they're going to be their primary focus, because if they are not in good condition, how on earth are they going to look after their children? So you may find that sometimes lions will, not out of that they've got any other option, but they will leave their cubs for longer than they would have liked to in order to get themselves a meal. And sometimes they'll have to finish that whole meal without giving their cubs any of it. Because again, it's just most important that the adults are the fittest and the strongest, because that will increase the likelihood of them being able to look after the cubs. But if they neglected their own health to try and look after the cubs, that would be counterproductive. So yeah, I think 12 hours would be your general kind of time away, but there'll be times when they spend a lot more time away from youngsters than that, if need be. Wonderful stuff. Well, we are going to stay seated here. We are not going to head off, and you guys are all the way back to the mark.